I know so many of you are waiting for the second part of the bank statement checks, but today I have something even more important. You are not going to believe this when I tell you. And no, it is not Keir Starmer resigning, which is quite good news. But I've got some rather bad news for some of you. And for lots of you, I think it's even more important the second part of the bank statement check. So that's why I'm doing it today. And tomorrow I'm going to be dropping the second part of the bank statement checks. And this is going to really open the eyes of lots of my lovely viewers and audience. Thank you so much for subscribing and following, because people often make this mistake. And this is very, very serious what I have to show you today. So let me go to this comment. I believe DLA, PIP are non-means tested benefits. All of this nonsense aims at most vulnerable and not those who are in it for the money and have the energy to just play the game. Those genuinely in need are at risk from negative effects on their health and well-being. There is no such thing as free. Those I know with genuine health and well-being issues, physical disability, would give up their benefits and the stress they have been put through via them in a heartbeat for good health and a normal daily life. It's always those genuinely in need affected the most. Long gone are the days where people were treated and assessed as individuals. And due today, it's going to get a lot worse. So today, being the 22nd of June 2026, it has been announced that in 4 days, there are going to be not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 8 new recovery powers coming directly, not just from DWP, but all public authorities regarding your bank statements. So if you thought PIP is a means tested benefit, or you're already working, so this does not affect you, you're going to be very surprised with what you're going to learn in this video. Now, before I go any further, this is not legal or financial advice. This is my commentary and, of course, general good information about all sorts of new things that slip into power that most people don't even know about. And as always, you can find any of the toolkits, planners, things that I refer to in my videos here on my YouTube shop, and always at thejusticejournals.com, which is where you also find my private membership OFFSYSTEM. Now, this little beast has just had an update, the Public Fraud, Error and Recovery Act. Now, so many people in the comments say, oh, I'm not on benefits, this doesn't affect me. You're forgetting to see what those two words are in front of you. Public authorities. So that's the council, that's NHS, that's DWP, that's PIP, that's any public authority. Now, everybody has been talking about the bank statements, and it seems so many people are being asked about their bank statements and being made to provide them, which has made people think, what can they see in my bank account? Why are they asking for my bank statement? What can they ask for? What can they not ask for? What happens if they misunderstand a transaction? What if I can't evidence the fact that I took 200 quid out and 2 months ago and can't remember what I did with the money? But this week, the conversation moves to something even bigger. This week, this act has been updated to money recovery powers, and some of them go further than your bank account. Now, before I go into the 8 new recovery powers, be it DWP, HMRC, the council, the NHS, I'm just going to clear up the elephant in the room. People often think, oh, well, I haven't done anything wrong. I declare everything. But lots of times organisations make mistakes, and it's very, very difficult to take a large organisation to court to get the decision overturned. I have done it, but there are even changes in law stopping people potentially from even doing that. So where does that leave the people like you and me that have to live in the system. Well, you know what I'm going to say, live outside of the system. And that's why I've created OFFSYSTEM alongside the Justice Journals, because it will really open your world up to the types of clandestine ways of management that we really have now in the UK. I mean, I don't know about anyone else, but I feel like I've gone back in the Victorian era right now. Everybody seems to be under scrutiny for something without doing anything at all. Okay, so bank statements are one thing. Eligibility verification is something else. And yes, it seems like some people at DWP are getting that confused because the Upper Tribunal have already stated that Department of Work and Pensions cannot close somebody's claim because they have failed to provide evidence for eligibility after eligibility has been given. And the Upper Tribunal state that that eligibility is given once the claim has been announced. So once your claim is opened, according to the Upper Tribunal, that is the eligibility. So let's start breaking down these 8 new powers. And currently, this is only affecting the Public Authorities Fraud, Error and Recovery Act. So the first change to this act that comes into play in a few days' time is Section 94. Section 94, there is now a recovery and a mechanism enforcement. And this really is the wider recovery framework. In plain English, this is about giving organisations like DWP much stronger powers to recover and enforce recovery without needing a court order. So this isn't about DWP just saying money is owed. This is DWP then being able to enforce that belief. So right now we're at a very different stage. This is not about just checking your bank statement for eligibility. It's providing organisations with all of your data so that recovery can become possible if they make that decision. They do not need your permission anymore to recover any funds. I just want to be very clear about that. Now we can all see why the bank statements being requested were unredacted, so without blanking anything out. So this new recovery and enforcement mechanism is basically saying if public authorities, DWP for example, or the council, believe that money is owed, they can just take it straight out your bank account. Because this change now means that the enforcement and the law surrounding that has literally just been automatically switched on. Now, before I get on to the biggies, I want to talk about this change, which is Section 97, Code of Practice. This is really important because a code of practice is basically like a manual explaining how things are meant to be done, how they are meant to be practiced. And in this case, it's going to explain how these recovery powers are going to be used. So it should cover things like safeguards, process, publication, representations, appeals, and how those powers are literally going to operate all of those things and put them into practice. Now, I think I'm going to be doing a whole video on that one alone because it's quite a big one. Now, I never thought I would see the next one actually being brought in, but it has been brought in. It's Section 96, disqualification from driving. So if you're working and you're not paying back money that they say you owe, for example, you're going to get disqualified from driving, which is going to be a real big snowball effect for lots of people. As I said, this is a Public Authorities Act. So all this information is going to be shared amongst DVLA, etc., HMRC, DWP, and they will be able to automatically disqualify you until you pay your debt. Now, I will say that DWP say this type of recovery is only going to be in the most extreme circumstances, I'm wondering if they're going to disqualify people and then potentially sell their car or auction their car off so that they can then recoup their funds that they say are owed. I mean, who knows what's going to happen. Okay, before I get to the next one about the big recovery from bank accounts, let's have a look at Section 104, which is about the powers of Scottish ministers, because I know some of you guys and guys in Scotland have been ordering an awful lot of my planners and in Ireland, and I thought, yeah, let's include this one too. Now, lots of people think because they live in Scotland or because they live in Ireland or because they live in Wales that powers of DWP, for example, do not apply to them. But in actual fact, with this new act, they have got special agreements that reach into those Netherlands. Okay, the next one is recovery from bank accounts. This is a biggie, and I have another biggie after this one. Now, as you know, I have never been in agreement at all with people having to hand over their bank statements, and I have made many different commentaries about why I think that would be. One of them was to potentially train AI for lots of the new operating systems that DWP have talked about and published about in order to deal with all of the new changes. However, I actually think this is because your bank statement in itself provides evidence to these organisations that your bank will not give them directly because you are the client of your bank. And that makes it very difficult with data protection and GDPR, where fraud or assumed or alleged fraud comes into play, then the rules are completely different. And that's why I think they've called it the Fraud, Error and Recovery Act. It kind of gives them white gloves to do pretty much anything they want. Or does it? So let's just say, for example, that DWP as an organisation or even your council decide that you owe them money. Maybe you haven't given them an up-to-date change of circumstances and they feel because of that you've been paid some type of council house payment benefit or a housing benefit or a disability benefit or universal credit or whatever it is that you weren't entitled to because at the time your changes weren't properly updated. Now, if that's what they believe, they can then raise an invoice and then they can send that to your bank along with a direct deduction order. Now, this can be for a lump sum or this can be in regular installments. And by the way, the wording is also for people who are in employment or not in employment and not even getting benefits. So this does apply to absolutely everybody. And this Fraud, Error and Recovery Act allows them to go back at least 10 years. So make sure you're always updating your change of circumstances to be correct. Now, if everybody wants me to do a little bit more about the bank account recoveries, I will do another video, but inside OFFSYSTEM membership, we do deep dives on this. Okay, there is another one. Now, this one is coming out in October. All of the others I've mentioned so far come into practice in the next 4 days. Okay, so this one is the recovery of costs. And trust me, DWP will max this like to the max. Let's not forget that they try to put an invoice on me for £186,000 when they're the ones that didn't follow their own policies. But giving you an invoice for costs, one might say, could be quite threatening, harassing. One might even call it administrative bullying. I'm not saying that, I'm just saying it could be. So this new change basically means that if they have raised an invoice or they think that you haven't paid them what they're due for whatever reason they're going to say, they can also come after you for the costs. So you won't just be paying what they think you've been overpaid. You'll also have to pay the costs too. And that could run into an awful lot of money. So there is an awful lot for you guys and girls to be considering. And the number one thing you must do is make sure all of your documentation is up to date and correct, because I'm telling you, they are going to really start coming for people. Now here you can see I have my other toolkit, which is the Justice Journal's Bank Statement Toolkit. All sorts of goodness in there. If you're a member of OFFSYSTEM, you will already have access to this because it is included inside the membership alongside a whole lot of other things too. If you have got to the end of this video, tell me honestly what you think about this and which one do you find the most scary and the most unnecessary. Let me know in the comments.